I think everybody knows who I am, so I'm going to spare you any details. What I do want to say is, I've been here a year and a half, and I know every artist who's been hung in this gallery personally. Good, but thank you. I have a loud voice. Personally. But then I ran into Dennis, and I saw him at an art show. I walked into a tent where his work was hanging, and I went, you have to come to the gallery. So this is a first where I've met somebody now. I now know Dennis. So I can say I know everybody who's ever been hung in this gallery. But I didn't know him until I saw his work, and I went, you have to come hang your work in the gallery. And so here he is. And please tell him about your journey, about your artistic approach. And then we'll open it up for questions, and then we'll do the poems.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and love to share my work. I came up with the idea that when I was a little lad of 10 or so, I used to walk in the nearby Canterbury Woods on the weekend. My mother would pack a lunch for me, and I'd be off all day on Saturday, and as long as I was home by dark. So I like to walk the 140 acres that they have there. And I realized that's where I started looking at nature. I did go to art school. I went to 3 of them for 5.5 years, but they didn't teach landscape painting. And so when I came out of college, I became aware of the Connecticut Impressionists, which really bowled me over. And I went up to Marlborough, Connecticut, where there was a gallery, to see their work. And of course, I went to Cos Cob and Old Line, and to see the work. And so that's how I started developing, going out and painting on location. And all these paintings here are places that I've been to. And several of them are plein air. This one here, on location. And this is on location. Stood in the middle of the stream. The water wasn't running that top. That's in South Kent Falls. And this is a plein air piece done just a couple of months ago over at Susan Griswold's gallery in Gallersville. The other work is, because it's larger pieces, I work in the studio, and I work from photographs that I take. But my thought process is not to do a transcription of what's on the photo or what's in front of me, but an interpretation. So I do make alterations. Some of the pieces are done very loosely. This in the upper left, I purposely just stopped. That's how I do start painting, but I like the atmosphere of it, and I said what I wanted to say. The one below it, obviously, is a much more finished commercial type of piece of the Inn on Lake Wormwood, which was recently done just a couple of months ago. Normally I would put that into a print series, 4-color print series, but my printer no longer exists. A 4-color Heidelberg press. I did some runs on historical train stations. I did 4 of those on the Housatonic Railroad in that way. I did them that size, and they were reproduced as 4-color. These other pieces are places that I know well. The Housatonic River, Bulls Bridge, this is an old line over by Lieutenant River. This is a hip farm near where I live. This is in New Milford. This is in Morris. Let's see. And those top 2 The one on the is up in Warren, and the one below is the Still River. I used to enjoy walking the Still River when I was in Brookfield, and it kind of reminded me of the Brandywine River. And I walked it in the winter, all seasons. Like I lived in Brookfield for 20 years. So I walked the Still River area in the winter, spring, and fall. And I did plein air painting there, and also took photographs and came back to the studio. I like, raise your hands, who are the artists that are here?
I have a question for you as well.
1, 2, Melody, 3, Carolyn, 4, okay. Yes.
So have you made your living as an artist always, or did you have some other
No,
job?
I always made my living doing this right out of college.
That's not an easy journey.
I was doing freelance illustration for educational periodicals. And I didn't have an agent, so I would drive up to Boston or go down to New York to try to get work. And it's all work for hire. You're only as good as your last job. I did do some children's books and film strips, but I gave it all up in 1990 to do self-publishing with the train stations. I also did something called Historical Town Composites for about 4 years of 65 Connecticut towns. So it was a very commercial product that I could do. I could go to the craft shows and did quite well with it until that ran its course. And then it's 1997, I decided to branch out and leave the state to see if I could sell my work in different areas. And my wife Carolyn came with me. We went to Florida to do the outdoor fine art shows, which we did for 25 years. And when we were in Florida, which would be for 5 months at a clip, we would use that as our motif. Because it's difficult. I have sold Maine subjects in Key West and Key West subjects in Maine, but generally the rule of thumb is you want to paint at the area that you're in. So we traveled at first, and we had a small motorhome, and traveled from Key West up the coast, up both coasts actually, all the way over to Fairhope, Alabama, and then up the coast, the Atlantic seaboard, top part of Florida, Carolinas, Georgia, all the way, Connecticut, all the way up to Maine, every year. And we would do this routine. So we had a lot of material and a subject matter to be inspired by. Carolyn focuses on the marshes with clouds. She's called the Cloud Lady. That's her nickname. And we didn't. And I focused on marsh with waterfall. So she had the low horizon paintings, and I had the high horizon paintings.
She's on the higher ground.
I've also been inspired by going to Anacapri, Italy, and for a while I was doing Italian themed paintings because of that trip. I was only there for 2 weeks, but I took a lot of photographs. But it inspired me to kind of think out of the box. So after being in Italy, then you go to places like St. Augustine, Florida, which has a Spanish undertone, of course. You start looking at things differently, and which was wonderful. But it's difficult for me to sell Italian-themed pictures and Florida-themed pictures in this area, you see. So that's why I'm doing this work currently.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Bob.
I'm assuming most of what you do is oils?
Yeah, I work with a limited, I work in watercolor, and I enter the national competitions. The watercolors don't travel well. So, and to be honest, I cannot get the money for watercolors that I can for oils. I work with a limited palette most of the time with the oils, which is just the 5 colors. Red, yellow, blue, brown, and a green.
No, you never work with acrylics?
Oh, yes, I have.
Oh, you have?
I worked with mixed media. Ever hear of John Mazzanino?
Yes.
I was good friends with John. In fact, I went to Italy with John because that was his hotel that was in Anna Capri. And he took me under his wing and taught me all his tricks. And I tried working like that for a while. And but I outgrew that in doing other things. Faith was telling me about her class that she has here, and a couple of the students wrote a couple of poems about 2 of my paintings.
That's
Great, thank you. So as some of you know, I do a Sunday Writes workshop here, so every first and third Sunday. And whenever there's a new show in the gallery, one of the writing prompts, so it's organized that we do writing for about 45 minutes, and then we share some work, and then we do a critique of finished pieces, and we go home. And hopefully we have some things to take with us. But so the last time that we did a workshop here, we had the new show up. Dennis's show was up. And whenever there's a new show, one of the prompts that I will give the class was called ekphrastic poetry, right? Which is where you write a response to some sort of artistic, it can be a painting, a piece of music, but it's some sort of art. And of course, everybody knows Ode to a Grecian Urn, right? It's very famous, that's an ekphrastic poem. And so 2 of the students from 2 Sundays ago provided me with their finished works, and the first one is based on the painting At the Still River. And if you look, when you get up and you take a closer look, because it's a small piece, but you'll see there's 2 trees, and one is distinctly white and one is distinctly dark. And so this is written by Sandra Johnson, which some of you may know, she's local, and it's called Shared Space. A trinity of shared attention. One arthritic birch looking desperate, pleading for space and exhausted in its reach. Stately and erect, one stands vigilant and proud among this trinity of trees. Unbent and symmetrical, it confidently rests and waits for the winter snowfall. Sapling to the side, unsure, undeveloped, yet to be hardened by age, with willowy arms dancing freely despite the stillness. What do we learn from bendedness? How do we share space in our bending? What holds solid space behind us when our winter comes, and our supple and waving arms are simply but lovely memories. So that's by Sandra Johnson. And then some of you may know Irene Sherlock. She's a regular here at the poetry programs. And she wrote for the piece here with the 3 cows called Hip Farm. 3 cows in pasture, heads bowed, as though in prayer. A dog at the red barn in strokes of green and brown for trees. The artist's brush, dots of white, now light in this landscape hung in this gallery. Should I call? Thank him for creating this work hung here, so I might stand here now wondering about cows and a dog, a man who created them. I imagine flies around the cow's tail and how they shift their heads, grazing under a ceiling sky. Cows on a still morning and a dog who moves into a red barn, finds a patch of hay, spokes of sun, settles himself with a groan. Thank you. And thank you, Dennis. And you want to say any final words?
Well, is just any follow-up questions in particular?
Do you have a favorite of all these paintings?
Well,
How do you
it's a
feel
good
about it?
question. My answer always is the piece that I'm working on. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I do have 3 paintings in my house that I won't let out because one won the American Watercolor Society Traveling Award for me. And another piece I was in the city, hung in the city also at the National Society of Acrylic and KC Painters. And another one got into Arts for the Park when they have that contest, and that went out to Jackson Hole for a couple of weeks. So those would be my favorites. Yeah, because John Mazzanino mentioned you only have about 3 paintings that you really like anyway, and those are those 3. Yeah. So when I paint something, I try and make sure before I let it out into the public, it's something that I'm happy with, proud with, and not just slopping out. You know.
Yeah.
My approach with the paintings with this series is I don't do any preliminary sketches. I just go right into the pieces, and I kind of design them as I go. If I was doing, let's say, a marsh with waterfowl, quite often I'll do a small oil concept before I go into a 4x3 foot painting, because I don't want to go into a 4x3 foot painting and then get lost in it. But these are relatively small.
This one here, where is that?
That one is next to the Merrimansville Hotel in Gaylordsville in New Milford, and they're having a show right now, which is, you should see, they'll be open tomorrow too. It's free. And that's next door. That's Susan Griswold. I can never pronounce her last name. That's her house that was built in 1860. And I put Susan in there scanning around. Melody and I
swear that we've driven by it.
Yeah.
Merwinsville Hotel is way off the beaten path. You
Yeah,
have to drive a long way to get to it.
Yeah,
On the back
as soon as
road.
I saw it, I recognized it.
And this is an old chicken coop that's on the property that she's made into a gallery. She just had, last weekend, she just opened up the gallery for 2 days. She does it twice a year. Yeah.
Huh. How heavy would you say your materials are to schlep out and do the plein air?
We try and keep it as small as possible. I have a little box that's good for 8x10, 9x12 on a tripod, and 1 bag. I got Carolyn to reduce her, what she takes out on the site. Because she used to go out with an easel, metal easel, and 3 bags, and it was discouraging.
You learn how to get the same results with a lighter load?
Actually, it's been such a space of time between now and then.
Yeah.
Well, you go out with just a few brushes and 5 tubes of paint. You can go out with 3 tubes of paint, really, and do it successfully. But you keep in mind when you're painting outdoors, it's just it's like poetry. It's you go out there, you have fun. It doesn't have to be a finished piece, and you just do it for yourself, and you learn from it. When you go out with several people, as we do, it's nice to bounce ideas off, and you also push yourself a little bit more.
And then you notice the different points of view that everybody has about the same area.
Oh, sure. Last week, when Lynn and I were painting, we were doing a brook with fall foliage, and the light had changed where it just wasn't very exciting, because there's only like an hour window of light to make it interesting. So I decided to paint Lynn rather than try and tackle that problem out there, But the other artists, they found it challenging enough and were successful in painting what was in front of them out there. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.